Hey guys, welcome back to my channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now I've been away on vacation for a couple of weeks. I'm super excited to be back, and we're going to be kicking things off with a bang here. We're talking about a small cap Canadian company operating in the psychedelic wellness space. The company name is Delic Holdings Inc., and I'm really excited to talk about this one for a number of reasons that we're going to go over in the upcoming video. Now before we get into it, you guys, please take a second to smash the like button. It's 100% free to do and it helps out in a big way. If you're not subscribed to the channel itself, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below what you think of this analysis and Delic Holdings itself. Now without further ado, let's jump right in and get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today we're going to be talking about Delic Holdings Inc. Now this truly is a small cap Canadian company. It fits perfectly on the channel, and that's why I was so excited to talk about it. Now you can see here they closed out yesterday's session at 26.5 cents Canadian. They trade under the ticker symbol DELC on the Canadian Securities Exchange. And according to Yahoo, they've actually got a market cap of about $10 million. However, later in the presentation, we're going to look at their fully diluted share count. It's about 60 million shares, so at this price of close, it's actually sitting a little bit closer to about $15.9–16 million Canadian. So it is a very small company, you guys. Obviously, with small companies, you want to do your own due diligence, but I think this one is definitely interesting, and I've added it to my active watch list because I feel like on the flip side of things, with these type of companies, there's tremendous upside. Now, if we look at the chart over the last 6 months, you can see Delic was actually trading up near $0.75, so about 74 cents back in the middle of February of this year. Now, since then, they've downtrended considerably. Now, Delic is in the psychedelic space, as the name would imply. We've talked about some of these other type of companies in this space. Red Light Holland, Field Trip Health, and MindMed are a few that come to mind, no pun intended. Similar in a sense to the MJ industry, which we talk about a lot on this channel. And again, similar to that industry, we've seen Delic really downtrend, along with a lot of the other ones in this space, since the start of the year. So you're now getting Delic for a third of what you would have been paying in February. And that, again, to me as a potential investor, makes this one super exciting. Now in this video, we're going to look at some of the recent news around Delic. We're going to do a deep dive on the company itself. I know you guys really enjoy those type of videos. Then we're going to talk about some big catalysts moving forward where you can actually see Delic in action, and then get you guys onto a pretty cool website that I just found that's actually talked about a few of the stocks that I've mentioned on this channel. So first up, I wanted to talk about some of the most recent news that has come up regarding Delic Holdings. So this one actually came out at the start of the month, July 6th, you can see here. And this is actually talking about psychedelic wellness clinics, so Delic Holdings, completing the acquisition of Ketamine Infusion Centers, or KIC, K-I-C, which is based in the United States, and again, as the name implies, really is focused on safe ketamine infusion clinics to help patients treat a variety of different illnesses or ailments. Now, they already have 2 clinics up and running. One is in Phoenix, Arizona, the other's in California. So they've got 2 brick and mortar locations, and we're actually going to talk about Delic's expansion strategy here. They're planning to have 15 clinics up and running by the end of this calendar year. They're actually targeting just before the Meet Delic event in Vegas, which is taking place in November. So a ton of growth projected in the next couple of quarters, which again, as a potential investor, makes this one really interesting as a short-term play or potential long-term hold, depending how things pan out here. Now again, Delic operates in the psychedelic wellness space, so KIC really folds into that realm quite nicely for this company. And there's a number of other highlights that this acquisition really enables. So KIC is already producing revenues in excess of $1.5 million US since 2019. So it's up and running and creating revenue that, again, they can fold into the bigger organization. In that same thread that we just talked about, they're planning to double their footprint or expand from 2 to 4 locations, again in California and Arizona in the near future. And one thing that I thought was pretty impressive here is they've actually already administered over 4,000 treatments and have 3 years of consistent expanded service throughout the United States. So they've got a strong foothold. People are already going to these locations, as we can see with the revenue and the number of treatments. And for such a proprietary product like this, I think that's really attractive and another great reason that Delic should feel good about this move. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out here is actually in regards to the leadership compensation structure. So as part of this deal, they paid $3 million US for Kick itself, but all of the leadership team coming over actually got signed into what's called a milestone agreement, where they're going to actually each receive a $150,000 US bonus for each new clinic that Kick's able to open, that they can get to positive cash flow for 3 consecutive months with an expectation of a minimum revenue threshold of $175,000 US. So the leadership team is very motivated personally to get these clinics open, which I think is going to be great for them, great for Kick, and ultimately great for Delic overall. Now, if we switch gears and jump over to the Delic Corp website, I wanted to walk you through what the company is about, their history, and then get into their business model. So as we mentioned, similar to a Red Light Holland or Field Trip Health, Delic is really in the marketplace to try and create mainstream access to psychedelic wellness. They're looking to build out a diverse ecosystem of opportunities by investing in talented entrepreneurs and cutting-edge ideas, like we just saw with the Kick investment. The leadership team is very well versed in these type of industries, so over 25 years working experience in the MJ industry. Kind of a funny story about the CEO, which we're going to look at, finance and psychedelic research, so a lot of experience and track record that this team brings to the table. And they really feel like they've got a unique team of deal makers in a great position to identify smart businesses in the right space at the right time and then really bring those businesses to scale. Now, in terms of the CEO's background story, as mentioned, this one's a little bit funny or ironic depending how you're looking at it. But Matt Stang, who's actually the founder of Delic and the CEO, was previously with High Times Magazine, and he was actually one of the former owners and operators of that business. Now, back in 2010, obviously the public opinion on marijuana in the United States was drastically different. So he was actually facing life in prison as part of that company. And he's now bounced back from that situation to being an instrumental player in the pending federalization of MJ in the United States. And on top of that, he's now pushing the boundaries at Delic in terms of the psychedelic space as well. So obviously you can see Matt Stang's resilience, you can see his drive in action and how he's not scared to take risks and really push for products and services that he sees personal benefit in. Now, for any of you guys who've been watching this channel for a while, you know that I really like to invest in businesses that are solving a root problem. So I felt that it would be fitting to really kick off the deep dive on this company's business model by looking at the problem they're trying to address or solve. Now, this first stat on the page was honestly pretty disturbing when I heard it. But every 40 seconds, somewhere in the world, somebody commits suicide. Now, that's a lot higher or more frequent than I personally thought, and really does highlight the issue of depression and anxiety and how that can impact people's everyday life. Now, ketamine has shown to significantly decrease thoughts of suicide, and actually back in 2019, a derivative, S-ketamine, was approved as a fast-acting antidepressant. So this product has been proven to really address this issue, and I think given the type of numbers that we just talked about, really any alternative or any option should be on the table. Now, in addition to the suicide issue, there's also a palliative care end-of-life anxiety. They've found that LSD and psilocybin have been really shown to reduce the end-of-life anxiety for terminally ill patients. So outside of suicide, here's another practical use case for some of these psychedelic products. And again, these are very similar to the issues identified by Red Light Holland, MindMed, and some of these other companies that we've discussed, and really trying to make the quality of life better for people that are in these very tough or difficult situations. Now, obviously the pandemic has been difficult on our entire society. As of the time this deck was put together, 50%, so half of all Americans, would actually meet the criteria for a mental health condition. So not only is it these really extreme or somewhat rare situations, but it's mainstream America and Canada that could really benefit from some of these products. Now again, psilocybin therapy has been granted FDA approval as a breakthrough alternative therapy for depression, so it doesn't have to be extreme cases that people can actually benefit from this product. Now the icing on the cake here is actually 50 million people right now in the US are addicted to smoking. Obviously Canada is very similar. They've actually shown psilocybin is actually a viable alternative to help people quit smoking. So again, this has a lot of different use cases, you guys, and really big TAM, or total addressable market. And that leads us perfectly into this slide, which talks about that market potential. So 32 million people in the US have already used psychedelic products at one point in their life, at least once, which equates to 17% of adults between the age of 21 and 64. So that stat to me really shows that people are open to these type of therapy alternatives, and they're willing to try out these type of products. Now, Delic then throws out some really big numbers here, you guys, so I caution you, obviously 500 billion isn't necessarily the total market for psychedelic replacements, but that's actually what US consumers annually spend on prescription drugs, with an additional 238 billion being spent on mental health treatments and other related services. So there's a ton of money being spent on these type of products. There's an additional $16 billion market for anxiety and depression treatment. And then on top of that, the government is actually spending nearly 190 billion on mental health and substance abuse disorders. So a lot of people, government and the public, are spending money in this area. And then on top of that, consumers are spending about $80 billion a year on cigarettes and smoking products. And that really shows the number of individuals that could benefit from some of those anti-smoking or quit smoking treatments. Now, this slide really talks about some of the solutions that Delic has come up with. So we talked about the ketamine division, or the kick injection sites, but the thing that really differentiates Delic from some of the others in this space are the ways that they're trying to address this market. So they've actually got podcasts, media events, and a laboratory division that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail. So they're really trying to tackle these problems in creative and unique ways. So this slide really talks about their holistic ecosystem. So you can see first on the list is media, and you can see a number of different channels or avenues in which they're interacting with the consumer or the public. So they've got their Delic radio or psychedelic radio. They've got the Meet Delic podcast. They've got the RS program. So they're really trying to get out there and get into mainstream society and open people's eyes to psychedelic wellness alternatives. They then have the health side of things, which is really the ketamine infusion centers, or KIC, which we just looked at. And then finally is the science area or umbrella, which is really led by Delic Labs, which we're going to take a look at in a second here. So in terms of the media channels, we talked about RS, Reality Sandwich. This is a digital magazine. They've got over 5,000 pieces of content, 460,000 website users in 2020. So a ton of traffic is going here, you guys. 54,000 followers across their social media platforms, and over 6,600 subscribers to their email list. So they've got a very well received and direct link to their captive audience. Now, Meet Delic is next up. That's actually a series of live and streamed events that people can go to learn about these products. And then third is the Delic Radio. This is actually hosted by Jackie Stang, who's Matt Stang's wife. She also works at the company as CCO and co-founder. So that's pretty cool. 43 episodes. They've been coming out since 2018, over 100,000 streams. So again, another avenue to reach their target market. Now, in terms of the health umbrella, we talked about KIC, ketamine infusion centers. They've got a very experienced management team, which are really motivated by that performance clause in their agreement. They've overseen 4,000 treatments to date. And I thought these numbers on the right were interesting. It costs on average about $250,000 to open a clinic, so it's great that they've already got some of these up and running. It generally takes about 6 months to break even, so the payback period is relatively short, especially with that increased motivation on the leadership team. And once they're up and running, the average clinic is going to do in excess of $1 million of revenue with a 25 to 30% operating profit. Now, as mentioned at the start of the video, they plan to open 10 clinics within the next 18 months, according to this deck. I personally think that's going to be a lot more aggressive. As mentioned, I'm targeting about 15 clinics by November, December kind of time frame. We'll see what ultimately happens here, but I would not be surprised if these numbers are a little bit conservative. And I thought it would really be fitting to throw this slide in at this point in the video, because this really talks about their deal platform process and how they really go out and find these merger acquisition type of targets. Now, it really all starts with management's extensive experience in these type of industries. So they know what they're looking for. They're able to effectively evaluate prospects of each deal based on a variety of factors. So market size, growth profile, revenue, the brand awareness, technology, the leadership team, the ability to fold this in with the rest of the portfolio. So this team feels like they've really got a knack for identifying businesses that are undervalued. They do extensive due diligence, so they've got experts on hand which really go in and dig into the numbers behind these companies. And then they're able to structure the deal in a way that really makes sense for existing shareholders of Delic. Now, as we scroll down here, you can see on both sides of this chart, they're talking about synergies, whether it's data synergies or actually business opportunities between the existing portfolio of companies. So obviously that's great and would be expected of really any M&A type of activity. And then ultimately that's going to add to their existing portfolio of companies or their overall operations umbrella. So again, I wanted to throw that in because I think Kick is really a good example of that. We're also going to talk about the next division here, which is under the science umbrella. That's really talking about Delic Labs. Now, this was another acquisition. The company was named Complex Biotech Discovery Ventures, so I'm really glad that they've renamed that one. And they've branded it now as Delic Labs. And this one, as you can imagine, is really focused on providing research and lab services to a variety of third-party companies. They've got analytics tools for psychedelic mushroom compounds. They're developing medical treatments using psilocybin and really focused on extraction optimization technology. So two things Delic Labs really adds to this portfolio. Number one, the intellectual property, the research and development. Number two is the history of providing that research and lab services to other companies, which ultimately brings revenue into Delic. Now, if we jump over to the Delic Labs website, you can see Complex Biotech Discovery, now Delic Labs. Here's some of the different things that they offer. So advanced analytic testing, research and development, we talked about MJ extraction optimization. So this fits in nicely with some of the companies like Valens and Neptune that again, we've talked about on the channel. And they're actually building out an MJ compound database. So I think this is really going to be cool as MJ starts to become more mainstream around the globe. It's really going to become important to index and archive all of the different strains and terpene profiles. So definitely take a look at Delic Labs if you're interested in investing in Delic. There's a lot to unpack with this website, but I did want to show it just as a high-level summary of some of the services that they offer. Now, if we jump over to Simply Wall Street, there's a couple other things I wanted to bring to your attention as we start to close out this video. So notice we didn't talk a lot about the numbers or Delic financials in this video, and there was a specific reason for that, you guys. This is a super small cap company. They're just getting off the ground, and you're really buying something like this for the future growth. So I didn't want to get bogged down and talk a lot about the numbers, but you'll see the first thing they call out here on Simply Wall Street is they're currently making less than $1 million of revenue per year, and they've got under 3 years of financial data available. So again, that's why I really wanted to focus on the underlying business model, so you guys can get this one on your radar, and then obviously do some additional due diligence or take a look at the financials if this has piqued your interest. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out, if you scroll down here, actually has to do with some recent insider buying. So Matt Lee, who's actually the CFO of this company, picked up 47,500 shares on July 12th at an average price of 26 cents Canadian. So you're basically able to buy this company today for the same rate that the CFO did just a couple of weeks ago. Now keep in mind, this was only $12,000, so it's not a massive buy, but obviously he's putting some of his own money into this company because he thinks they're so undervalued and this company is trading at such a discount to what he considers to be fair market value. So again, always happy to see insider buying for any of the companies that I'm looking to invest in with my own money. Now, the last thing I wanted to quickly talk about here, you guys, is actually a website that I came across in my Delic investigation. They've actually listed Delic Holdings as one of their top picks here. Now, this website is called the Momentum Letter. As I was on this website, I started to look at some of the other top picks, and I noticed Greenlane Renewables, ticker symbol GRN, was just listed as a top pick. Now, we released a video on GRN a couple of weeks ago. The Momentum Letter was actually onto this company before I was. So you can see here, they picked it when it was trading down at 47 cents. So that definitely caught my attention. They also talk about Fans Unite, which we've mentioned on the channel as well. So I thought that was cool that they're onto some of the same stocks that I am. Obviously, it's great to have websites like this and other YouTubers to get ideas from. So if you're looking for some additional content on these companies, take a look at the Momentum Letter. Worth a read and definitely helps support my bullish thesis on Delic Holdings. Now, to wrap things up here, you guys, I think Delic is a really unique and interesting way to play the psychedelic space. It's definitely a small cap. There's tremendous upside here. We've seen insider buying. I think there's potential to make a lot of money on this company, and I think you're getting a really attractive entry point at the 26, 27, 28 cent kind of price range. Now, time will tell if they're able to get these clinics up and running, but if they're able to get 10 or 15 brick and mortar locations up and running within the Kick division by year end, I think this could be a huge game changer for Delic, especially considering some of the social media traction and the lab services that they offer. So for those reasons, you guys, I've added it to my watch list. I'll let you know if and when I do decide to pull the trigger on Delic Holdings. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of this company, if you're currently holding shares, or if you've heard any news about them that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover in this video. Now, if you're still watching the video at this point, hopefully you found some value, so make sure you smash that like button. It really helps me out in a big way. If you're not subscribed to the channel itself, McNallie Money, feel free to do so, and definitely check out some of those other videos that I mentioned earlier if you're looking for exposure or more context on this industry. That's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.